How's it everyone, Grant here, welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be unboxing the Sony Xperia XA1, which is their follow-up to last year's Xperia XA. So as you can see here, XA1, it's a dual SIM device. Here's the front of the box, Xperia with Sony logo. I'll bring in last year's XA box just to compare real quick. So Sony had these square boxes last year. They've gone to more their traditional rectangular box, it seems. We'll take a look at the back of the box where they have the specs here, and you can even compare where they upgraded from the XA from last year. So this year they have, the main feature is their 23 megapixel rear facing camera. So I believe this is the exact same camera sensor as found on their flagship from last year, which was the Xperia XZ. So that's a big upgrade there. They've got a 8 megapixel camera still in the front, but I'm pretty sure they've also upgraded this to a larger sensor. So you should see better low light performance for you selfie lovers out there. Same 5-inch HD 720p display. I don't think they changed the display at all. It's an IPS LCD display. They've upgraded from micro USB to USB Type-C. The same size battery capacity, 2300 milliamp hours. And so while that may seem really small, last year I was getting about 4 hours of screen on time with the XA. So Sony optimizes their software pretty well, so I'm expecting some all-day battery life out of the XA1, but we'll test that to verify that for you. The other major upgrades are on the processor. So last year they had a MediaTek Helio P10. This year they've got the P20 in it. And they've also upgraded the memory across the board. So last year you had 2 gigs of RAM. This year you're getting 3. I think all phones really pretty much need at least 3 gigabytes of RAM to really operate efficiently, especially when multitasking and preventing reload of applications. We'll test that out to see if the extra gig of RAM makes a difference here in XA1. There's also 32 gigs of storage, so that's doubled from last year's 16 gigs of storage. And again, 32 is pretty much minimum nowadays. I was running out of space really fast on last year's 16 gigs, but just like last year, you've got micro SD card expansion on the XA1. I don't believe there is going to be adaptable storage. Sony traditionally does not support adaptable storage, but we'll test that out to verify that for you. You've also still got Bluetooth, NFC, so NFC is still here. You can do mobile payments on this thing. And that's pretty much it for the specs there. So we'll get this out of the way and we'll crack into the box here. And we'll go ahead and open up the box now. Slide that over. There's the phone itself and a bit of plastic here. We'll lift that up and check out what's in the rest of the box. I don't expect a lot. Sony doesn't usually give a lot of extras, but here's your quick start guide and your other nighttime reading. I'll open up the quick start guide in case you want to see what that looks like. Pause that and read that for yourself. And looks like this is the international model. I wasn't sure if this was going to be US or international. This is international, you can tell by the wall charger here. So this should be a fast charger from Sony. There you can quickly see the output. You've got should be a USB Type-C charging cable, and it is USB Type-C there. And because this is the international version, we get some headphones. So US models never come with headphones. Internationally, Sony usually gives them away, so nice touch there by Sony. Some basic Sony earbuds there. And that's pretty much all we get in the box. So now we can take a look at the phone. We'll take it out of its wrap here. And we'll take off the plastic. And we'll take off the front plastic here. And you can see it indicates dual SIM. I'll take that sticker off as well. So here we have the device. We'll power it on and we'll walk you around the device. So there you can see the standout feature of the XA1 is going to be this edge-to-edge display. Sony introduced these in their XA models last year. I wish they really would have brought this type of a display to the flagship models, as it looks really, really nice. It's really why I bought it, because the design looks really, really elegant. I got the black variant here because I want the black top and bottom to kind of blend into the display, because they really look a lot prominent here. They look pretty big for the top and bottom chins because of the display is so narrow and edge to edge. But if you compare the top and bottom bezel size to other phones like the Moto G5 Plus, you can see where the screen ends on the top and on the bottom to the edge of the bezels. They're about the same size. And you can make the argument that the Moto G5 Plus has a fingerprint reader on the bottom, so it justifies the bottom bezel. But there's phones that people think look good, just like the Honor 8, and it does look good. It does not have a fingerprint reader at the bottom, and as you can see, from where the screen ends to where the bezels go to, they're pretty much the same size. So, while the Sony XA1 seems like it has a big top and bottom forehead and chin, it's really not that bad compared to other similar phones, and it looks more pronounced probably because it has this edge-to-edge display and it's a very, very thin device. As mentioned before, it is a 5-inch 720p IPS LCD display, and for most folks, you're not going to be really able to tell the difference between 720p and 1080p at this screen size. It actually looks pretty good, and we'll show you more when you get into the device here. But looking around the rest of the device here, on the bottom, you now have a USB Type-C as well as a single firing mono speaker there. On the left hand side is where you've got your SIM tray. So this is where they have the flaps still. They haven't gone to a traditional pop-out tray. Well, actually this model is. They used to be just flaps. But it looks like here you go, you've got your dual SIM there as well as your micro SD card. So it's a pull-out tray. You don't need any kind of SIM tool, so that's kind of nice there. At the top, you've got your 3.5mm headphone jack and another microphone. And as you can see, it's a pretty thin device. It's not much bigger than that headphone jack. They've gone to the similar design language as on their flagships, where you can see it's more of an ovalish design here all around. Sony likes to emphasize that. So they kind of wrap around kind of a design there. And on the back, you've got your upgraded 23 megapixel sensor, pretty much the same sensor in last year's Xperia XZ, their flagship. If you compare it to the sensor size on the last year's XA, you can tell it is a little bit bigger there. And you've got your single flash. This is where your NFC contact point is, Xperia branding. It's a matte finish, so it's black. It'll pick up some fingerprints, so you might want to be wearing a case on that. And on the right hand side here, you've got your dedicated camera shutter button, just like Sony always has, which I do like, because a half click down you get your focus, and press all the way down you can take the picture just like a normal camera. If you long press on that, it'll launch the camera, so it's a camera shortcut as well. You've got your traditional Sony power button there. I do like that because it's a different style of button from your volume rockers here, so there's really no mistaking power versus volume. The other thing that they changed is that they moved the volume rockers up. They used to have the volume rockers here, and while some people like that because you could adjust it really easily, other people didn't because you could adjust it easily. You might mistakenly hit the volume, so now they put it up here where it's still fairly easy to get to without accidentally tapping on them with your fingers here. So you can kind of see it here with last year's XA. There's your volume rockers here with a power button. Now they moved it up. So comparing it really quickly to last year's XA, it's pretty much the same design. You can see it's a little bit taller this year, and the corners are less rounded off, so much more rounded corners, much more sharp corners here. But that's kind of to achieve Sony's ovalish design. Ironically, it produces sharper corners, but it's a much more rounded off design from this standpoint. But otherwise, it's pretty much looking pretty identical in design. You've got that same 5-inch 720p IPS LCD display in an edge-to-edge design. And also because it is 5 inches, it does feel very narrow. 5.2 is going to be a little bit wider, like something like your Moto G5 Plus here. So it's definitely wider here on the Moto G5 Plus. A lot thinner here. It feels kind of like this year's flagship devices like your Sony S8 or your LG G6, where you've got that thinner but taller design. This still maintains a traditional 16:9 aspect ratio. It's just thinner because it's just a strictly 5.0 inch screen versus a 5.2 or 5.5 inch screen. Other things to note here is that just like last year's Xperia XA, there is no fingerprint scanner. So if you really want a fingerprint scanner, you're not going to find it here on this device. If we get into the device and take a quick look around here, there you go, the main screen. Sony's skin here tends to always be fairly light, unobtrusive, fairly close to stock Android. And here you can see some of the apps that come pre-installed. You're gonna have some of the basic Sony apps here. You do have an FM radio, and that's pretty much about it. You're not gonna get a lot of bloatware here, it seems. You do have Amazon and Facebook pre-installed along with Spotify. Your traditional Google apps are there. And we can take a look at the pull-down shade. You can see here it pretty much looks like stock Android. We can hit the settings and go into About. And we can show you here it is running Android 7.0 Nougat out of the box, and it has the February 5th 2017 security patch. And if we go into storage, we can see that it's using 10.66 gigs out of the 32 gigs of storage out of the box, but this is why 16 gigabytes of built-in storage no longer acceptable, and why we really need at least 32 gigs pre-installed. If we go to advanced, we can see the memory here. The memory is 2.8 gigs, so pretty much 3 gigs like they say, and it's 1.2 is being consumed just on initial boot. And as you can see here, we'll take a really quick look at the display. You can see here for 720p display, this actually looks pretty good. The colors look pretty good. Actually, let's go into our display settings because this is a Sony's triluminous display, and they usually do have some display settings here to adjust. So image enhancement, they do have their typical image enhancements, their X-Reality engine, which is usually what that image enhancement mode is, and super vivid mode is what I usually put it in. This gets you closer to not really full AMOLED, but it gets you more vibrant colors and images without going too far on the saturation. So now if we kind of take a look at it, you can see here colors do look good. Reds look pretty red, greens look pretty green. You can see the color, and the blues as well. You can see the colors there with the Google colors. They're the colors of the rainbow, so it's a good idea of what the colors look like. It doesn't look super saturated like a Super AMOLED display will or general AMOLED display will, but the colors do look good. They don't look dull, and the text looks more than crisp and readable. So for a 720p panel, this looks pretty good. You can even see some of the viewing angles. I'm not sure if this comes through on camera, but if we tilt around, this does look pretty good. Last year compared to the Xperia XA, when I tilted it left or right is when you can kind of see the viewing angles deteriorate a little bit. Here it still looks pretty good. So I'd say for a 720p panel, this is looking pretty good. Sony's displays always usually look pretty good, so it doesn't look to be too disappointing here. Okay, so now that I have it all set up, I can give you an idea of how it performs with that Helio P20 and 3 gigs of RAM. So we can go ahead and unlock the device, and there's a nice little background animation in the stock launcher wallpaper there. And let's run through some quick settings on the stock launcher because I normally don't use stock launchers. I normally use Nova Launcher, but this Sony stock launcher actually has some pretty useful settings here to make it a little bit more usable. I can adjust the icon size to small to give myself a little bit more real estate on the home screen. I can also go ahead and remove the names that were displayed in the dock on those applications. I don't like that, so that we can disable that. We can even disable Google Now. So this is a Google Now style launcher. If you swipe in from the left, you can access Google Now. If you don't like that, you can disable it there. And you can double tap to sleep, so I'll enable that. And now if I go back home, if I double tap, it puts the screen to sleep. There is no double tap to wake that I can find yet, so we still have to unlock it normally. But double tap to sleep, something that kind of LG has. Nice to show up here on Sony. You notice the app names are now gone. This is the Google Now launcher that you can disable if you don't like that. So now we'll go through a little bit of performance. I'll get rid of everything in the background, and we'll open up Twitter. So this isn't really an official speed test. This is just to give you an idea of how it'll perform with basic tasks in the real world here. So Twitter loaded up pretty fast, and all the content's loaded here, so we can scroll through it, and it's pretty smooth, very media heavy app, and as you can see, no real jank or stutter here, so that's a good sign. We can open up Google+. This again, content media heavy with all these cards and thumbnails, and it seems to be handling that just fine. Pretty smooth. I don't see a lot of stutter here. Very nice there. Launch YouTube. Again, very content heavy with the videos and the thumbnails. That loaded up pretty decently fast, and you can scroll through. I'm not really seeing any kind of lag or stutter as the content loads, so that's a good sign there. We can go ahead and launch something like ESPN. Now this usually has a video or something playing which can impact performance, and you can introduce some stuttering while you're trying to move around with that video playing up top. But as we scroll through, nothing too bad here. A little bit of stutter, not a whole lot. That's kind of expected with a video playing there, so this is actually pretty good still to me. We can go ahead and launch Starbucks. Starbucks can take a little bit of time to load as well, in my experience, so we'll see how long it takes here. And there we go, we're in. And it's also got a decent amount of content and media with these big thumbnails, and so that's pretty good there to me as well. We'll launch Chrome. We can go ahead and launch a website. Let's just tap GSM Arena because it's there. Let all the content load up, and we'll scroll around. And actually that's pretty good. As you can see, GSM Arena is a pretty content heavy device, a lot of thumbnails there, a lot of images, and that's handling the scrolling pretty nicely there. We can also go ahead and launch the camera app just so you can see what the camera app looks like. We'll give it something to focus on. So it's a swipe-based gesture interface here. You've got it on your still photo mode. We can look at some of the settings real quick. 23 megapixel settings and some other resolutions there. Then you can go into your video mode. Same thing here, full HD 1080p. There's an app in here that you can download to get to 4K in your camera modes here. And we can even take a quick snap here if you want. So pretty quick shutter, a little while to load, a couple more. So shutter speed's okay. That's not exclusive to the XA1. This happens on most Sony devices where the shutter speed will be pretty good, but image processing will take a little bit of time. And there you can see the image. Not too bad, but we'll run it through a camera samples test and see what it really looks like in the real world. And we'll go back and hit our recents and go through back to our apps. Hit Twitter, that did not reload, which is good. Google Now, same thing, no reloading. YouTube, again, did not reload that. ESPN either. And Starbucks and Chrome. So all pretty good, no reloads. On the XA with the 2 gigs of RAM, a lot of those things would have reloaded. So not bad performance here on the XA1 as far as I can tell. But I'll keep using it and I'll report back in my full review how it's performing. I'll also compare it to some other budget devices so you can see my opinions on performance and everything else there. Just wanted to give you an idea of how that P20 and 3 gigs of RAM is helping the XA1 here. So far, looks pretty good out of the box. So that's a quick unboxing and look at Sony's XA1. It's their budget phone for this year. It comes in at $299, so $300 US, brand new. It'll probably come down from there. And that is high for most budget phones, but Sony is never cheap. You don't buy Sony because they are cheap. You typically buy them because you like the design, you like the Sony brand. I know I have a nostalgic feel for Sony. I grew up with Sony Electronics, so I'm a big fan of Sony. They're definitely more expensive than other phones in the budget range, but I will be comparing them to other budget phones in the same price range, like the Moto G5 Plus that I just unboxed here. This is also $300 retail. I'll also be comparing it to the Honor 8, which can be found for just about $300 nowadays. About the same price range. I am expecting the Moto G5 Plus and the Honor 8 to be much better in most categories, but the real change here and upgrade for the XA1 is the processor, memory, but mainly the cameras. So how do the cameras compete against the Honor 8, which has a very nice set of cameras, and more importantly the Moto G5 Plus, which has a flagship spec rear camera. Same thing here with the Sony XA1. It has last year's flagship camera sensor from Sony as well. So we've got a couple of flagship quality sensors here in the Moto G5 Plus and XA1, as well as some nice camera sensors on the Honor 8, and that's really where I want to focus. But we will do a complete comparison between the three, so stay tuned for that. If you have any other questions and comments about the XA1, let me know in the comments, and as always folks, thanks for watching.